from Philip. Thank you, Philip, for today's tale. Here we go. Dear Simon and the Venerable Collective, as my 37th wedding anniversary approaches, I wish to go back to the occasion of my 3rd wedding anniversary. So that'll be 34 years ago then. My wife and I decided to go somewhere new for dinner to celebrate. I had recently seen a piece in the local newspaper about a newly refurbished hotel that was priding itself in its fine a la carte dining experience. It was now called something like La Pomme sur l'Orange et un oiseau d'église, or something like that. I decided to push the boat out, hang the expense, and I phoned the aforementioned restaurant and made a reservation for the following Saturday evening. Armed with my trusty access card, those are the days, we set off and were soon driving up the sweeping gravel drive. As we pulled into the car park, my wife commented on the number of cars already there. It must be very popular, she said. However, I was slightly taken aback to see that the swimming pool in front of the hotel was empty and clearly had been for some time. It was coated in a thick green moss. I thought perhaps that will be next on their list of refurbishments, and I thought nothing more. As we approached the entrance of the hotel, we were aware of music playing. Sure enough, as we entered, our ears were assailed by the unmistakable sound of the birdie song and the sight of a whole number of people emerging from what was clearly signed as the restaurant, but they were performing the prescribed moves for said song with the flapping arms and the wobbly legs, you remember. It was then that we were approached by a gentleman in a black tie and dinner jacket, who informed us that he was the manager of La Pomme sur l'Orange et un oiseau d'église, and he welcomed us. We informed him that we had a reservation for dinner. It was at this stage that he informed us that there was a wedding reception in full progress and that tonight's dinner would be served in the residence lounge. Perhaps we would like a drink in the bar before dinner. This wasn't called a bar, this was called Le Terrasse de la Pomme sur l'Orange et un oiseau d'église. You get the groove here. My wife and I followed him to a small bar. It was just off the reception area and was now, it seemed, an overspilled dance floor. I ordered a lime and soda because I was driving and planned 1 glass of wine with my meal and a G&T for my wife. Having been told that unfortunately they'd run out of ice, this wasn't going well. We took a seat. A sense of horror was growing by the minute. My wife suggested I take a quick look at the aforementioned lounge to see what it was like. I duly obliged, and stepping around some dancing wedding guests and a small boy running, then throwing himself to the floor and sliding on his knees, shouting hallelujah, I entered the lounge. There were 2 tables set for dinner. One was set for 2 people, the other for 1. That table was already occupied by an elderly gentleman who had tucked his napkin into his collar, and as he waited dinner service had dozed off and was snoring gently. I returned to the bar and gave my wife a description of what I'd just encountered. "We've got to get out of here," she said. It was then I had an idea. I told her to just follow my lead and question nothing. I hasten to add that hasn't been a theme in the subsequent years of our marriage. At the time, I worked in the city, and in my jacket pocket, I had a small gadget, rather like a pager, that Reuters provided, and on which 2 or 3 items of market data could be displayed.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like being in The Wire. That's what this is. So a nice little time capsule here. I removed it from my pocket, waved it at the manager we'd spoken about earlier. "I'm ever so sorry. My page has just gone off. I'm on call tonight. I probably shouldn't have booked dinner. I do apologise, but we are going to have to go. Bit of an emergency. Sounds like it's all hands on deck. Sorry." So then I realised that I didn't have any cash to pay for the drinks. I apologised profusely again and asked if I could pay with my access card. Despite being below the hotel's card threshold, given the circumstances, the manager reluctantly agreed. Now, those circumstances were that the manager assumed that I was a doctor on call, because this is the impression that I'd given, with my pager and everything. We were leaving the premises hastily, again picking our way through wedding-goers who were now sitting in a line on the floor, moving in attempted unison and singing "Oops, upside your head."
Yeah.
All the rowing and collapsing that went with that. And it was then that we became aware of a small kerfuffle. As we approached the door, we heard, "Ooh, Auntie Dot, are you okay?"
Oh, no.
I think her back's gone. I think her back's gone. We'd stepped outside and I heard the manager say, "That gentleman there is a doctor. just a second, excuse me, said the manager of the La Pompe, L'Orange and the Oiseau by the Diglees and so on. Doctor, can you, she's her back.
No.
Well, I glanced round and I said, listen, sorry I can't stop. Try, fresh air.
Fresh air?
Water, that kind of thing. Rest.
Towels?
I
Yeah.
now was running through everything I could remember from my medicine cabinet. Call the GP, aspirin, plasters, Savlon, TCP, paracetamol, ibuprofen, deep heat. I shrugged. Yeah. We increased our pace. We got to the car and quickly left. The next stop was our local Indian restaurant for a takeaway. Oh, the sweet relief of a balti and a garlic naan. I asked not for the forgiveness of the proprietors of the aforementioned La Pompe, L'Orange, and so on. They should have informed us of the change in dining arrangements and were perhaps guilty of misinforming the public about their extensively refurbished premises. But instead, I seek forgiveness from Auntie Dot, if indeed she's still with us 34 years later, and her family, if they were, albeit briefly, misinformed as to the proximity of medical help. Thanks in advance for all your understanding and forgiveness. It's from Philip, who ain't a doctor, but he did have a kind of a pager type thing provided by Reuters, it sounds like, because he was a market trader and all that kind of thing. So let's check in with, well, obviously the people's verdict will be expected. Sister Susie from the pub.
Well, Philip, there's a few things here that I've got issues with. It was your anniversary. You knew it was your anniversary. Why didn't you book a table somewhere else much further in advance? Why are you doing it that week for the weekend?
I mean, come on.
Okay.
Secondly, if you can get a table somewhere for the weekend in the week, then maybe it's not that good because they've still got tables left.
Yeah.
Thirdly, you should be grateful they weren't poorlier or it wasn't an emergency. And that is not on.
Come on.
Pretending to be a doctor. So no, I don't forgive
No forgiveness,
Philip.
Brother
No.
Matthew.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit more forgiving than Sister Sue's. The restaurant should have been offering a discount because you suddenly you're not in the restaurant. You're sat in the residence lounge. Also reminds me of when I took my wife on a wedding anniversary meal. She's vegetarian, and I booked us into an Argentinian steakhouse. Literally sat on cow hides. So I'm going to forgive.
There's a surprise. People's verdict, please, on the